it's very easy to say yes to things. It's very easy to feel, responsible for other people, or feel like, you need to always be a part of the solution rather than allowing other people to help themselves. And so there are just a lot of things about our personalities that we don't really think, oh my gosh, that's what was zapping all my energy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Kristen Donnelly, one of the good doctors of Abbey Research. Here at Abbey Research, we deeply believe that curiosity can change the world because it's the only thing that truly ever has. Since time in memoriam, humans have wondered what's over the hill. What does, if I do that thing, does this person like me? That's all curiosity. Chasing those questions leads us to fuller experiences of being human. And that's what we try to experience and encourage here at Abbey Research. This series is in service of that. In fact, it's called Welcome to My World. And I get to talk to fascinating folks from all over the world who are different than me, which is literally everybody, about something that they know that if we knew it, our human experience would be fuller and richer. And today's guest is absolutely no exception. I am joined by my dear friend, Jennifer Bassman, who is a burnout and boundaries coach and specialist. She's actually launching a course. As you listen to this, it is out in the world about how to essentially not become a burned out couch potato, which we all desperately need. She's got a slew of qualifications, including being a qualified Clifton Strengths coach. And I will say from personal experience, her ability to help you understand yourself is second to none. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Or should I call you Dr. Donnelly on air?
Absolutely not. That's weird. Just call me Kristen. I know I talked to somebody earlier today and he was like, hi, Dr. Kristen. I was like, that's nope.
Still not nope. Okay.
That's a nope. Anyway, any use of what's it. So we've talked for a while. We met on Clubhouse. Jennifer's another Clubhouse friend. And we've done some rooms together and we've talked about burnout. And one of the things that I've learned from you is that burnout is a really like it's commonly misconceived as like people just kind of throw it around like I'm feeling really burned out. But that could be true. But then there's also another layer. Could you unpack that for us?
Yeah, there's certain things I think in our society that become like trendy or become just kind of part of our vernacular, and we say it and we don't really know what we're saying or understand what we're truly saying. And so you hear a lot of people right now saying, "Oh my God, I'm so burned out." Whether or not they're actually burned out, is for us to still see, but, burnout, true burnout. So let me give you just a really basic working definition of burnout is chronic stress over long periods of time from working. And, different people can handle different amounts of stress.
So really quick, before stress from working, can that be like, could a stay-at-home mom be burned out? Like that kind
absolutely.
Of work counts too? Okay.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. And there's also different kinds of burnout. There's emotional, there's different levels of burnout, different types of burnout. I particularly focus on work burnout. It's, more, I think a lot more common, but work burnout in itself is just something I think a lot of us experience it, on varying degrees, for a variety of different reasons. It's just, what becomes really tricky is actually figuring out one, if you truly are burned out, and then even trickier is how to get out of that burnout cycle. And so those, that's where a lot of people tend to get lost is in recovery. They start trying things and it doesn't work and they think all hope is lost. And then they just, keep moving on, like trying to act like nothing's wrong.
So when you're working with folks, is the first step then for them to identify that they are burned out, or are they coming to you because they already know that they are?
Usually coming to me, I'm usually somebody like me is usually a last resort. They feel like that. Yeah. Usually they feel like they've tried everything. They've typically been in burnout for a long period of time. I have yet to have anybody come to me without, not having actually identified themselves incorrectly as being burned out. They're exhausted, they're cynical, they're so far down the rabbit hole, they're at their wit's end. They know something is wrong. They know they can't continue to go on this way. The stress has already started to materialize physically within their body, which makes things even harder because once, the stress starts leaving its mark on our body, there's even more cleanup. There's often a lot of long-term damage that, we need to start thinking about there. But yeah, usually people have been, burned out, stressed out, exhausted, just lack of patience. They usually hit most, if not all the symptoms, all the markers.
So some of this sounds to me like depression. So and depression can be clinical and is usually requires, medication and talk therapy of some fashion and kind of thing. So is there a way that you can kind of encourage folks to tell the difference between burnout and depression, or are they kind of similar enough?
They're very similar, actually. But burnout, the difference between burnout and depression. So actually, if you are in burnout long enough, you can actually you can slide into depression. You can become a depressed person. If it's sorry, everybody has something to say about this.
Your dogs are deeply passionate about people not getting burned out.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure who is outside irritating everybody right now, but there's somebody out there. But yeah, there's a difference. And that's why it's important, because you can slide into depression if you allow it to go on long enough. It is critical that we catch it at a certain point so that you don't go down that slippery slope. Primarily what you'll see, what I see in my clients when it's become something more than burnout is there are a lot of emotional issues. There's a lot of emotion that's tied to it that is very negative. It's definitely more than a coach should be handling. And I am definitely happy to say to somebody, look, this is not happy. I shouldn't say that. That's not the right choice of words. But, there is a certain point where it's not a coaching topic. It is meant for a therapist. It is a clinical issue. But, usually what you'll see with people that are depressed, you can see that there are personality tics or personality triggers that are keeping them in this burned out state, this burned out mindset that they're just not letting go of. And it's a lot of emotional issues. There are a lot of emotional subjects that are tied to their burnout that require some more treatment, some more help than what your typical coach could give.
Okay. Right. So as we're sitting here, so much food for thought. So we're sitting here as the folks are watching this, it's January of 22 and hypothetically,
Happy New Year.
It's a fresh year. I know it's COVID season 3. A lot of us aren't probably feeling very fresh, but as we're sitting here, not making resolutions, not doing anything to be broken, but I know there are things. What are the things that you would encourage people to kind of start incorporating into their life to either turn the tide if they're feeling a little bit burned out or to prevent it to begin with?
The first thing I would suggest is give yourself some grace. We have all been through a period of trauma, 2 years worth of trauma, no joke. And so we're all tired. We're all, lacking some patience. We're all lacking, a little bit of grace with each other, let alone ourselves. So if you can just, stop for a second somewhere in your life and just take a deep breath. I know that when we're stressed out and we're busy, we're not exactly in that mindset where we want to stop for just a second and take a deep breath. The second thing that, after you've recognized and you've accepted that, we're all kind of going through something. I'm not saying that you're not special. I'm not saying that, what you're going through isn't isn't special. That's not what I'm saying at all. But that, we've got to start figuring out where some of those stress triggers come from. Other than living through a horrible pandemic, we need to start looking at some of those, stress triggers. A lot of people initially go for their job, which sometimes that's what's going on, but sometimes it's more of a mindset issue. There's something inside of you. There's a limiting belief often that we have that is keeping us from exiting a certain cycle. It keeps us in this stress cycle. It keeps us, going down that path of, nothing's right. Everything's terrible. So if you can start looking for some of those triggers, if it's a particular coworker, if it's a particular task within your job, if it's the job hours, maybe it's that you don't know how to shut yourself off at the end of the day. That's, you take your work home with you, figure out a way to leave it at your desk. I know a lot of people are working from home and that's pretty hard to do, but you need to establish some kind of barrier, whether it's a physical barrier or a mental barrier. The email gets turned off at 6 o'clock and you don't come back to it until 8 o'clock the next morning. The phone gets turned off, whatever it is that is inciting you to work or want to do something else that's work related, we need to see what those triggers are so that we can stop, putting those in front of ourselves. Go ahead.
I was going to say, when you were talking about limiting beliefs, like, I think the more I talk to folks in the world, but definitely folks who think about burnout and things like that. And we've had this conversation before, like mindset is so much of it, because it's this, like, why are we overworking? Well, it's because we've tied our idea of self-worth to productivity. It's because we've decided that we're not, doing something, we're not good people unless we are, doing work, which is back to my infamous, the Puritans are completely at fault for all of our burnout rant, but it's so much mindset stuff. And
it totally is.
But none of us, it's like one of those things. I don't understand when we can't see mindset problems in our own bodies. So we need to be in a relationship with people that can be like, so that's a limiting belief.
Yeah, it's so hard to see those things in ourselves, and a lot of
you just accepted it as truth. This is how the world works. Yeah.
This is how the world works. This is how I work. This is just the way I am. I can't change. The world isn't going to change. There's all different phrases, all different ways that we, tend to communicate that with, within ourselves. But and we've allowed that hustle culture to kind of seep into every aspect. People no longer just have hobbies that they do for fun. Even hobbies have been monetized. Yeah. So it's really hard for people to really separate, work from home and work from fun and, just doing something that brings them joy rather than paycheck. So it's just not surprising that, even if the thing that used to be fun for you, you've somehow monetized that hobby. I have a friend of mine that used to make these really cool t-shirts. She would screen print t-shirts for some of us. It was just a fun little thing she did. She really enjoyed it. And then she ended up turning it into a business and now hates it. So, it's being really careful to ask yourself, is this something that I want to continue to love? Is this something that continues to relax me? And I want to keep it that way? Or is it really worth, turning into another job? So there's a lot of that happening as well.
Oh yeah. I remember when I first started writing fan fiction again, people were like, so are you going to get paid for this? I was like, no, the literal point is I'm not. First of all,
I think you're nuts.
It's illegal. But second of all, I need something that I cannot monetize or something that is not due on time. I used to review romance novels and that was super fun, but it also turned into a job and it made reading not as fun because I wasn't getting paid, but I was, I had deadlines and stuff. And I was like, no, we got to walk away from this. And what I'd love for people to really grasp in what you're saying is that a huge part of preventing that cynicism and that exhaustion that can slide into something deeper is to do something that you like doing.
Yeah, that brings you joy. I mean, I know it sounds so simplified. Yeah, that just, you're not even, you lose track of time while you're doing it. You have no idea what's happening around you because you're so tunnel vision and so focused because it's filling your well. I mean, if we think about ourselves as buckets, I know that that's kind of I don't want to think about myself like a bucket, but think about your bucket. It has to be replenished. You have to keep it full. And so you have to have activities in your life that keep refilling it, because there are plenty of things around us that without any effort punch a hole in the side of it to let, whatever we fill it with out. So make sure that you've got, whether it's exercise, whether it's time with your friends, whether it's a fun hobby, there have to be things in your life that are consistently refilling that bucket.
I love it. So I know as we're talking, you're putting the final touches on this course. As the folks are seeing this, it is live in the wild, I believe, or it's at least going to be close to. So
yes.
what kind of stuff, this is a self-directed one, like what kind of stuff are people going to be working through if they take it?
Sure. This course in particular is all about boundaries.
Okay.
Something that I have learned from myself going through my own burnout phase, and something that I've learned through most of my clients that have gone through burnout, we lack boundaries.
Right. Okay.
And a lot of what is happening with, people that are on that slippery slope into burnout is that they have an inability to say no. They don't seem to know what time is theirs versus, what's not. They're surrounding themselves with people that drain them rather than energize them. So it's a course that is going to help you figure out some of those things. Like, what are your priorities? What do you value? So that you can protect those things that are going to, maintain your energy and help you preserve your time for the things that mean the most to you.
I don't think I would have connected boundaries and burnout as strongly before I met you, but it is really so I don't ever feel like I can say no, because it's tied to that limiting belief of like, my worth is tied to this productivity. So I have no boundaries, and it just keeps becoming this terrible self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that has to do with the way we were raised. That we need to be helpful to others, that we need to say yes, that we need to, not talk back, not speak our minds, and having that quashed down for decade after decade of your life. Eventually something's got to give, something blows. And so boundaries, it's been a fascinating journey for myself. I wrote a book about it called Stop Being a Doormat, and the course is based off that book. But it isn't, I think most people are surprised that when we start talking about boundaries, it's really about self-preservation. It's about protecting yourself. It's about protecting your ideas, as well as, protecting your time and energy from all the things around you that zap it. It's very easy to say yes to things. It's very easy to feel, responsible for other people, or feel like, you need to always be a part of the solution rather than allowing other people to help themselves. And so there are just a lot of things about our personalities that we don't really think, oh my gosh, that's what was zapping all my energy. One of the shockers for me were my expectations. I had no idea how high my expectations were, not only for myself, but for the people around me. And that was killing me, like literally killing me, as well as ruining relationships with so many of the people around me. That was a fascinating discovery on my part that came from, learning more about myself through my strengths, through, Clifton Strengths Finders, but also, accepting and acknowledging that piece of me that needs to be managed a little bit. And I managed that through having some boundaries. And, part of that was having a discussion with myself. This is a priority. This is not. This is good enough. This is not, this is, what I should actually expect. This is what my clients should expect from me, and leave it at there. It's getting used to that idea of, what do they call it? Under promising and over delivering, so that you're surprising yourself later when you're like, wait, I still have energy and time left over. I could do a little extra something here, instead of always trying to do that little extra something, which turns into a lot of extra something. But yeah, there's little things like that we don't think about.
Yeah. So a good, as we go into 2022, whatever that looks like, at whatever season we are, we should figure out our boundaries, learn to enforce them, and do something that's fun.
Yes. And I would challenge everybody to ignore New Year's resolutions. You and I have had this discussion about why we don't think that they're worth, thinking about. And one of the reasons that I argue in our, conversation about this is that we don't even have the foundation of most of of what it takes to actually achieve our goals, where something like a boundary would allow you to do that. Right. Part of goal achievement is being able to be focused and being a good time manager and a good energy manager. And if you don't have boundaries and you're saying yes to everybody and you're never saying no, how are you going to achieve your goal? A boundary is going to help you do that.
Especially, because if you're somebody who has tied your worth to your productivity or something else, if you don't reach a goal, it's like demoralizing. Yes. When really you may have just not set the right goal in the first place. So
ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll hit pause on our conversation here. Jennifer will be back on the channel in various forms throughout the year, I am sure, because we have lots of richer conversations to have. Jennifer, where on the internet can the fine folks find you?
Oh, yes, definitely come look for me at jenniferbassman.com. I try to make it as easy to remember as possible.
There you go. The course will be there. Buying her book will be there. Also, a link to my review of her book, which will be up on our channel. Spoiler alert, it was fine. So I found it very helpful. It's written in a workbook format, which I think is really important for a book like this. So you'll have my more in-depth analysis in the separate video, which will be linked below. And in the meantime, if you liked this conversation, the vibe, if you've tolerated me, please do all the YouTube-y things, like it, comment, subscribe to the channel. I have lots of fascinating conversations, both with my guests on Welcome to My World and with my partner, Dr. Erin Hinson, on our other series, in which we just keep talking about how we can all human better, because none of us know what we're doing. We all have to figure it out by ourselves. So let's do it together instead. My name is Dr. Kristen Donnelly. My guest has been Jennifer Bassman. This has been Welcome to My World, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.